Michigan Out of Doors Online is brought to you in part by...
For over 30 years, Vanguard Outdoors has made the gear that turns a regular hunt into another fine day of field. We know that a good shooting stick or a nice pair of binoculars can make or break your day. Our design teams include serious hunters who work hard to bring you the best sporting optics, shooting sticks, tripods, bags, and more. We are Vanguard Outdoors.
Well, hey everybody, welcome to Michigan Out of Doors. Thank you so much for joining us this week. We're going to kick off this week's show talking about deer management. It's actually part one in a three-part series that we're going to do talking about deer management. And on this week's show, we're going to sit down with Chad Stewart, the big game specialist here for the Michigan DNR, get his viewpoints on some of the different regulation changes. We're also going to sit down with an NRC commissioner, hopefully in the next week or so, and someone from the Upper Peninsula Deer Management Initiative. So lots of good stuff coming over the next several weeks. After we do that, we're going to have time to kind of visit with a musky fishing legend down there on Lake St. Clair and learn a little bit more about how those lures are made. Lots of great stuff on this week's show. You stay tuned. I'm Jimmy Gretzinger. It's time for Michigan Out of Doors.
From the first spring rains to the soft summer breeze, dancing on the pine forest floor, the autumn colors catch your eyes. Here come the crystal winter skies. It's Michigan out of doors.
What a beautiful day in the woods.
Someday our children all will see this is their finest legacy, the wonder and the love of Michigan. As the wind comes whispering through the trees, the sweet smell of nature's in the air. From the Great Lakes to the quiet stream, shining like a sportsman's dream, it's a love of Michigan we all share.
Michigan Out of Doors is presented by Country Smokehouse, a sportsman's meat processor and Michigan destination since 1988. Offers a variety of homemade smoked meats and Michigan-made products in-store and online. The Country Smokehouse features an outdoor barbecue and bar. Details at countrysmokehouse.com. By Green Mark Equipment. Green Mark Equipment is a John Deere dealership network in southwest Michigan and northern Indiana. Green Mark provides sales and services to farmers, commercial businesses, large property owners, and homeowners. Information about pricing and products available can be found online at greenmarkequipment.com.
By Network Outdoors, connecting members to share experiences, help grow businesses, and to give back to the outdoor community. Learn more at one of 10 monthly meetups or online at networkoutdoors.com.
Well, we're here once again with Chad Stewart, who has the easiest job here in the state of Michigan, is in charge of the deer herd. Just kidding. There's a lot of changes coming up, some regulation changes, Chad, some people that people know about, some of them don't. So let's just start big picture. What are some of the new regulations for this year for deer hunting in the state of Michigan?
Yeah, our Natural Resource Commission just met in July, and that's where the regulations for 2024 were finalized. Few changes, some minor, some fairly significant. In the UP, not a lot. First thing you'll notice is that the quotas in what we call our mid-snowfall zones, DMUs 351, 352 have been changed. 351 has gone down to 0, so there's no antlerless quotas, there's no drawing available. Antlerless hunting is essentially closed for firearm hunters in those units. 352, the quota was reduced from 1,000 down to 500, so it was cut in half. Additionally, if you're in those units, in those mid-snowfall zones, if you're an archery hunter, you can no longer take an antlerless deer after December 10th with archery equipment. You can still buck hunt beyond that, but antlerless hunting is prohibited after December 10th, which this year is the last day of muzzleloader season.
Okay, Chad, so that's some of the changes in the Upper Peninsula. What's going on in the southern lower this year?
Yeah, Lower Peninsula, a few more changes, and certainly hunters are going to notice some of these a lot more. For one, now in Zone 2, which is our northern Lower Peninsula, it's that muzzleloader season is no longer just a muzzleloader season. It's an any legal firearm season We made that change in Zone 3, Southern Michigan, several years ago.
Yeah.
And again, there was a commission initiated amendment to make that change. So it's going to still be called the muzzleloader season, but
Okay.
for all intents and purposes, you can go out and
With
use any legal
okay.
firearm during that period.
Okay.
Where we have the early and the late antlerless seasons, historically that's always been a private land only season. We've acknowledged that there's certainly different efforts and numbers of hunters and pressure that goes on public versus private land. This is now a public and private land hunt. So
Okay.
you'll be able to go onto state game areas and hunt for antlerless deer during the early and late antlerless season. Additionally, we've got now what's called an extended late antlerless season in southern Michigan. So as you go across like Muskegon, Newaygo, I'm not going to get them all, but that
Yeah.
line of Bay, everything south of there, you're looking at a now late antlerless season that's going to run from January 2nd through the second Sunday in January.
Okay.
And this is on both public and private lands, but additionally, they're going to be selling a separate $5 antlerless license for that time period. Now, your previously unused or unfilled tags will still be available to be used during
Okay.
that season, but they're going to offer a discounted, it's going to be called an extended antlerless license for that period
Okay.
if you wish to participate.
Okay. And tell me a little bit about the youth change. I know that does not take effect this year, but for next year there is a change, and give me a little info on that.
Yeah, the commission decided that both the youth hunt, which is the Liberty hunt, which we term it, and the Independence hunt, which is the 4-day hunt in October for individuals with a qualifying disability that they can participate in. They made that change to make both of those seasons antlerless only. Would not go into effect this year. It's a 2025 start date. That would then sunset in 2029 if it were to continue that for that duration. But as of 2025, as of right now, those seasons are scheduled to go to antlerless only.
And is that something that the DNR proposed to the NRC? Is that something they did on their own? Is that part of some of the DMI stuff, which we'll get into in a little bit? But where did that come from?
Yeah, that was a commissioner developed amendment. So it did not originate from the DNR. It did not originate from this deer management initiative team. We had the commission brought it forward. Obviously, they're hearing and responding to comments and calls that they're getting throughout the year. They brought this forward. There was a brief discussion, and ultimately the vote was had, and more commissioners supported it than not, and that's how it passes.
Now, I would think that would probably reduce the amount of people going into the woods on those hunts. Is that, I mean, it seems like most of the regulations that the DNR wants to put forth is about getting more hunters into the woods.
We generally err on the side of providing opportunity, especially if it's not going to have a negative or detrimental impact to the resource.
Okay.
So, yeah, we typically have operated the youth hunt, the Liberty hunt. For years, I think it was initially brought forward as a recruitment and
Yeah.
retention tool. I think it's probably fair to say that was probably a little bit unfair to give it that sort of weight. It was probably never going to have the weight of an increasing number of youth hunters resting on just 2 days in September.
Gotcha.
There's far more than that. That being said, we know that there's a lot of things competing for youth hunters' times nowadays, whether it's academics, athletics, just family dynamics, whatever it is.
Yeah.
So we've always viewed it as additional opportunity. There's very few deer that are taken that weekend. It's very much less than 10,000. So it's easily less than 2% of our annual harvest. It tend to be dominated by antlered deer. But we've always maintained that the decision should be up to the mentor in terms of what they allow that youth hunter to harvest. So provided this regulation sticks in 2025 and beyond, we'll continue to monitor it both in terms of participation and harvest and see what comes of it.
Are you getting a lot of feedback on that one?
The feedback that we always get is always negative. We never hear the positive side of things. I'm sure there's a lot of people that have a positive view on this. Typically when folks reach out to us, it's because they don't like something.
Gotcha.
So the ones that we hear typically do not support that change.
Okay.
You know, I know that there's another side that we often do not hear, but our surveys have shown that it's a very polarizing topic, as you would
sure.
expect.
So fill in the folks that don't maybe know what this DMI is. That's something new that's here in the state of Michigan. Explain what that is and how that works.
Yeah, the DMI, we refer to it as the Deer Management Initiative, and it was a new process. We've not tried anything like this really to this level in the past. It was requested by our commission last year. We started putting these teams together January-ish, and really it was to address some of these bigger changes that are happening with deer management that we haven't had exposure to in recent years. We have fewer hunters than we've had, you know, in probably 50, 60 years, right? We've got high deer numbers in many parts of the lower peninsula. We've got low deer numbers in many parts of the upper peninsula. We've got diseases like chronic wasting disease and bovine tuberculosis on our landscape. So the commission's obviously hearing a lot of dissatisfaction from our deer hunters. They asked us to work with those deer hunters and stakeholder
And how many
groups.
people are in like the Upper Peninsula one and the Lower Peninsula one?
Yeah, it was between 20 and 25 for each group.
Okay.
I think the UP group had about 22, the Lower Peninsula group had about 25. We also created a separate team with our tribal partners.
Okay.
So we put a team together like with representation from any tribe that wanted to participate. Obviously it's less on the regulatory side and more on the what we call non-regulatory side, so less things that go through the commission.
Okay.
But still, we wanted those voices to be heard as well.
And so the commission actually asked you guys to put these teams together.
Yeah, we put these teams together. We wanted a mix of people, right? We had representatives from existing stakeholder groups that we always work with. You know, the groups like MUCC, National Deer Association, UP Sportsman Alliance. You know, we work with those groups. We're going to continue to work with those groups. But we also brought in individuals who were unaffiliated from any organization, because we felt that there's a lot of people out there who might not feel represented by the groups that are already in existence. So we wanted those voices to be captured as well.
And so they put forth a bunch of, for the lower and for the upper, they put out some, I don't know, recommendations or ideas or whatever it is, and then that came to you and the commission then?
Yeah, so how it worked is we spent the first couple months just providing them with just tons of information on deer management. I mean, on every topic you can think of. And we actually have those meetings recorded and put on our website.
Oh, nice.
So if you
Okay.
look up Deer Management Initiative in Michigan, you're going to find probably almost 40 hours worth of content of meetings that anybody can go look at. But we then brought them together once we provided them with all this information, and they developed what we call non-regulatory situations. So things that don't have to be voted on by the commission but can still be acted on in some capacity, but also regulatory scenarios. So, you know, there's so many topics with deer management and deer regulations. I mean, firearm season length, firearm start date, muzzleloader seasons, archery, you know, all these sort of things, quota numbers. We wanted to bring all these different opinions together and develop a scenario. You know, because all of our deer regulations packages should work together. They're not individual pieces that are just built, but they're packages that work together. And we wanted them to bring those different perspectives, those different values together, and build these scenarios and what they thought would be an improvement to what we currently have.
Okay, so did the NRC adopt any of the ideas from the DMIs or not?
Not many. They didn't adopt many. So when the DMI teams brought forward their recommendations, we put those into the conservation order. Which is the conservation order is what we bring forward to the commission to vote on.
Okay.
And the commission has the authority to accept, reject, or change anything within that order. We simply kind of crafted it as best as we could, and full disclosure, we got some things wrong because of the way that they communicated and the way we interpreted it. We got it wrong in the initial order, but then communicated to the commission, you know, what the true intent of the DMI teams were. The actual part that came out in terms of what was approved, I don't think there were many. There were certainly some pieces of the recommendations of the DMI that came out, but not too many.
Okay, so are the people that you're hearing from on the DMI, were they pretty frustrated by that? Were they expecting very few things to actually change, or what's your gut on that?
I haven't been able to connect with everybody from the DMI teams for sure. The ones that I've heard with, I would say that they've been on the disappointed side.
Yeah.
And I don't think that there was any expectation that
They knew all of them weren't going to.
Right.
Yeah.
They didn't expect that the commission was going to rubber stamp the entire package. That was the full expectation going in, and they understood that. But I think they were a little bit disappointed that more of the recommendations weren't accepted.
Now, is that a 1-year thing, a 3-year term for these DMI folks that are just normal people?
So overall, I think the process worked pretty well. We built a lot of relationships. We had a lot of really good conversations. I think the teams, for the most part, worked very well together. So I think we did develop some sort of template in terms of trying to better incorporate public comment, public sentiment, and having them be a part of this regulation development process. What it looks like in the future, I don't know. It won't look like it was before, because that was literally a sprint, and it was.
Was this a one-time thing? So are they now dissolved, those groups?
No, we're going to reach back out to them. We're going to take a little bit of break and let the dust settle from this past cycle, because everybody's been going hard. This was a 6-month process, and most of these members, I would say, fully dove into this. I mean, they put their heart and soul into it. Very committed, very passionate. But it was a pretty intensive process for about 6 months. So
wow.
We're gonna let things quiet down a little bit, because I think everybody's a little bit burned out after going through what we've been through. But we'll bring some of these folks together, and then we need to talk with them. We need to talk with our commission. We need to talk internally about what, I guess, phase 2 looks like.
Well, it seems to me, from outside looking in, I mean, you got the NRC that can kind of do what they want to do. You got the DMI, which they asked you guys to put together, and then didn't really use a lot of that feedback. And then you got the DNR, so it almost seems like, is this mucking it up even more, or is this a good thing, you think, moving forward?
I think time will tell. I think how it's going to continue to work is still sort of in progress. I think the way we're trying to look at this is as like a 3-legged stool. We've got the science leg, we've got the sort of public opinion, engagement, leg, and then we've got the decision leg, which is our commission. And if we have a stool with 3 legs, we'll be a lot more stable than a stool with 2 legs, or a chair with 2 legs, where we're only using 2 of those things together. So I think there's a path forward to make this work. It's just, this is all new, and we're kind of working through that process a little bit more to find out how to make it best operate.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Well, we appreciate your time. We're just kind of looking for some of the new regulations. I'm sure we'll be sitting down as we get closer to season, but appreciate your time.
Hey,
thanks,
thanks,
Chad.
Jimmy. Appreciate it.
Well, we are hoping to keep the deer management discussion going over the next few weeks as we visit with an NRC commissioner, as well as one of the members from the UP DMI.
If you're passionate about musky fishing, you've probably heard of Ziggy Lures. Well, Mr. Ziggy Obudzinski lives right here in Michigan, so we thought we'd check in and see exactly how those famous lures are made. For nearly 20 years, this little backyard shop has been producing the stuff that big fish stories are made of. Ziggy custom musky lures are made here on the shores of the St. Clair River, just a few miles from some of the best musky fishing in the world.
Prior to that, I was making ice fishing decoys. And, it requires the same type of painting and colors and patterns that are on ice fishing decoys. And my musky fishing friends got me to start repainting their beat up and lures that their patterns that they didn't like, or the colors they didn't like. So that's how I got started. Repainting other people's lures. So.
Okay. And
then after a while, a couple of my friends decided that I ought to make my own, copy my own. But for the first year or year and a half, none of them worked very good, So the charter guys here on the American side and the Canadian side, I started giving them samples out, and they started critiquing my design, make it fatter, shorter, change the bill, change the angle. And after about a year of that, they said, stop, that works good, continue. Don't just, change nothing. So that's how my shape and pattern evolved.
Captain Tom Loy has been musky fishing Lake St. Clair for over 20 years, and he won't leave his dock without an arsenal of Ziggy's lures on board.
Ziggy and I have been friends for a long time, and I enjoy coming over here and talking to him, and just being in this environment is fun. Just to see what he's doing and what he has, and to talk to him is fun. It's just nice to be here. And all of the musky guys feel the same way. He's good friends with all of us. We were talking about St. Lawrence's a little while ago. The most consistent color and Ziggy lures are the most consistent bait on the lake. I would bet that 98% of the charter guys who know anything about fishing have at least one Ziggy St. Lawrence. 6-inch, 8-inch, and probably a 12-inch as well. We all have, as Zig was saying earlier, we all have chewed up baits. And as Zig says, those are the most productive baits, but it gets to a point where you can hardly use them anymore. I have some that you can't tune up. You can't make them go straight. They're so chewed up. But I have some hanging on the garage wall, and people always go, ooh, look at that. That's a really good one. So, I like them. I like the chewed up baits, and they're always good to have around. Everybody knows Zig. Everybody knows Zig. Every charter captain on the lake, like I said a moment ago, has Ziggy baits. I don't know how many I have, 20, 25 in there somewhere. And I have from 6 inches to the bigger ones. And the bigger Ziggies, I think the heaviest fish in modern time was caught on one of Ziggy's baits. That's what was 48.5 pounds.
Ziggy has built quite the reputation with his work over the years, and it was time to see exactly how these legendary lures are made.
The way I make these lures is we start out with a blank piece of wood. It's I use either Jelyotong or mahogany. And we start out with a square shape, and we put it in a duplicator, and we rough cut it out like this. And then we sand it. Then we put in the eyes, and then we put in the mouth. And then we cut it in half. And then we insert a wire, and then we glue it with an epoxy type glue, put it together, sand it again, and we end up with the raw piece of lure here. After the wood, the basic wood lure is made, then it has to be sealed, primed, base coated, and then you can put a color on it. So the whole process from start to finish, from here to here, is approximately an hour, per bait. So it's labor intensive, but to make lures, I think you gotta love it. It ain't very profitable, dollar wise, Right. So you end up working for about $10 an hour or something of that nature. So I've always loved fishing, and after I retired, I needed a hobby, and this is what I got into, and I just love it. It keeps me busy. It keeps me away from the refrigerator and the TV. So generally I just have blank lures that I can paint, and whatever, guys send me emails and text me pictures, or they bring me a sample of a bait from wherever they found it and tell me to duplicate it, Right. So, and that's what I do. I just paint to order. That I wish I knew what the best color is, because it changes daily, hourly. What's good one day won't catch nothing the next day, or for the year. I mean, I've had patterns that work continually for 1 or 2 years, and then all of a sudden it won't catch a fish.
While he finished up the final steps of the lure making process, Ziggy talked about the old days on Lake St. Clair.
Yeah, I musky fished, with them. I started in, I think it was about 1964. Out in the lake at that time, the water was muddy and dirty, and we would fish 2 days, and if we caught one fish, we were happy. So, but, over the years, the water cleaned up and the fishing got better, so I enjoyed all that.
Do you still fish?
I still fish right to this day.
It sure was fun hearing some stories from the old days and seeing how these famous Ziggy lures are made. Special thanks to Ziggy Obydzinski for keeping the artistic craft of custom lure making alive and well here in Michigan's Out of Doors.
Thank you so much for watching Michigan Out of Doors this week. If you missed part of this week's show or maybe last week's show, you can always check us out online. You can do that through our website, our different social media platforms, as well as YouTube. Now, coming over the next couple of weeks, we're going to have part 2 and part 3 of our deer management discussion with an NRC commissioner and a member of the Upper Peninsula Deer Management Initiative. So lots of good talk about deer coming in the next few weeks, as the season is really not that far away. Thanks so much for joining us this week. And if we don't see you in the woods or on the water, hopefully we'll see you right back here next week on your PPS station.
Michigan Out of Doors is presented by.
Do you dream of somewhere bigger than your backyard? You can get there with Greenstone. Whether you want to hunt, fish, hike, or just watch the sunset, we're ready to help you own your place in the great outdoors. To learn more, visit greenstonefcs.com.
By G5 Outdoors, makers of the Quest and Prime bows, manufactured and designed in Memphis, Michigan. G5 offers a line of archery bows, broadheads, and accessories on the web at g5outdoors.com.
Mid-Michigan Ponds has been building and maintaining ponds and lakes throughout Michigan for nearly 25 years. We combine biology and heavy equipment to make pondscapes that are sustainable and fishable. More information at midmichiganponds.com. Closed captioning brought to you by Double D Ranch Foundation, a nonprofit 501c3 foundation working to make hunting and fishing accessible for those with disabilities.
When I wander far away, a dream stays with me night and day. It's the road that leads to my home state. I am a Michigan man.